What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Tell Me More podcast presented by Major League Success and the Real Estate Cheat Code. I have Kevin Hart with us from the Hart Property Advisors at Keller Williams, Greater Columbus. Kevin, thanks so much for taking time out of your day to jump on here with us and just talk about your journey into the business and then, kind of your career as a real estate agent.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'm excited because we go way back from my Keller Williams consultants days, which is a good 10 to 12 years ago. I think that's where we first met back then, and I know we met out at a conference in Phoenix.
I was going to say, I think actually the first time we met was actually in a pool in Phoenix.
I think about that day often. To be honest with you, I actually do think about that as like, when I go to conferences, I'm like, man, that resort was awesome. That resort was awesome. But Kevin, on the Tell Me More podcast, the goal and the mission for me is to impact the failure rate of our industry. I don't believe that it needs to be 87% failure rate by the end of year 2. And, here I love getting successful agents on within our own marketplace and outside of our marketplace to just share that journey, right? To let people know that it's okay if you come from different walks of life, different career paths, and how you want to think about building the business. So we always start with the beginning, childhood. What was life like for you growing up? Where did you grow up? Did you have any interests or hobbies?
Actually, I'm originally from West Virginia, Mothman Country, Point Pleasant, West Virginia. And lived in Columbus for 2 years during high school, but otherwise I'm originally from West Virginia, Point Pleasant. Then right after college, I took off and went to Marshall University. So graduate of Marshall University down in Huntington, West Virginia. Moved up here to Columbus right after that.
So what did, from high school to college, what did you go and focus on?
Actually, I started off in retail. And so I was in retail, kind of planned out my life, just kind of fell into it. I worked full-time I don't say full-time, but majority full-time hours all throughout college. I worked at Lazarus / Macy's now because I'm old. Back then it was Lazarus, and worked there all during college. Came out I don't say intending, but my focus then was actually retail management. So I worked for Guess Jeans as soon as I came out of college as a store manager here in Columbus.
Tell me about that, because I'm sure, and we'll probably get to this. When I ask agents, these types of questions, right, I always find that there's something, in a different career or early on in their life that had a huge impact. And I worked retail in high school and for a hot second in college during, the holiday hours. Retail and working in a restaurant. I've never worked in a restaurant. I've worked in retail. Those are two careers that I always say, like, I could never do ever again. So for you, what did you like about it? What has you kind of just focus or go and focus on that track of as your first career?
To be honest, one thing I look back on now, as far as I think about this often in regards to, I went to a small school, again, West Virginia, and now kids have a lot more opportunities than they did whenever I was in school. So when I came out of school, out of high school, I really had no idea what I wanted to do. So I took the business management plan with college, but looking back, if I would have known now what I knew then, or knew then what I know now, however it's worded, I would have probably actually went to school for architecture.
Okay.
I have I've worked for builders. I have a knack for that type thing. It's common sense for me to walk into a house or to design and those type things. But retail, customer service, I loved. Still, I'm goofy, I guess I could say, or the outside the norm. Around Thanksgiving, Actually, not that I really go shopping. I actually kind of hate shopping anymore. But Black Friday, I loved it. I love. I mean, hence the reason I'm single. I work all the time. I mean, that's my life. And Black Friday was actually one of the funnest days for me in the world. I mean, that weekend, I just 12 hours a day, whatever it is. I mean, but that's what my life has always been about, is just working, working, working. And, but the excitement of um, the busy days were great for me. So
Yeah.
I kind of find that weird now whenever if I do ever go out shopping and stores are not busy, I'm like, how can you do this? I mean, but then I also see like people now have a different attitude than they did whenever I was back in retail, whenever I was there. I mean, it was
Yeah.
everything was perfect. You did everything. I mean, and now, I mean, it's um,
Yeah.
the discipline is different than it was whenever I worked in retail.
It's not that, for me, retail was, you had to have the work ethic, especially running a store, the managers and stuff. I mean, 10, 12 hour days. Just for me, it was I couldn't deal with the customers' attitudes, right? I had no problem. I worked at Hollister in high school. I worked at American Eagle for the hot minute in college, and I had no problem with, like, the displays and all of that. It was more so, you know, customer attitudes especially during holidays and all of that. I just couldn't handle
See,
it.
you're a little younger than me, because I now go into I think oftentimes it's just we're in a different era now than where we were, and it's you can relate that to real estate too. And I tell people a lot of times that people think of us in real estate as doctor's hours. I mean, but uh, but even more so that we should be available all the time. But in retail, my very first job in high school was working in a store that's no longer around, but it was Ames Department Stores, and uh, I was a cashier, and you literally punched the numbers in on the SKU, and people were used to waiting, and people were friendly. I mean, I mean, every item was punched in. I mean, you could be standing in line for 15, 20 minutes. Now, if you go to the grocery store and you stand in line for 2 minutes, I mean, and I have that same anxiety in regards to waiting in line for 2 minutes. But used to be standing in line for 15, 20 minutes was really no big deal. It's just what you're used to. So
Yeah.
it's, I think about a lot of that oftentimes just in regards to real estate. I mean, Lord, we could go there. When I started in real estate, it was just, God, I hate talking about my age, but but it was back when everybody faxed things and you went and got signatures. I mean, it's
Yeah.
so the world is changing every day, as well as real estate continues to change every day, and we adapt with it.
Yeah. One of the skill sets that you probably definitely had to pick up, with that is how to engage in small talk, right? To open up that conversation. And I bring this up to, agents getting into the business all the time. I know your team does leads, we do leads. And, the most common objection that we're ever going to hear is we're just browsing, right? And it's the same thing when people walk through the store, the entrance of that store. It's like, oh, what brought you in today? Oh, I'm just looking, right? It's the just natural defense. And in that environment or at the register or all those things, you had to pick up on, how do I, you know, engage this person to open up on a little conversation to see if I truly can bring a solution to them. So I know that has had a huge impact into your business, because it definitely has in mine. But Kevin, lead me up to, your career path, all the way up to the point of you deciding that you want to get into real estate.
Gosh, again, my first job out of college was working at Guess Jeans as a store manager. Was working a lot of hours. Really enjoyed it. Took a promotion into um, calling only on department stores, and so I was doing that for a bit. And then I decided I didn't want to be retail to define me. So looking back, sometimes I kind of wish I would have gone a different route. But but I moved into pharmaceuticals. I went to work for Cardinal Health, and I worked, to be honest, going through college, had very little experience in with computers. It really was. It wasn't the mainstay whenever I was in school. So it was. But my first job was actually with Cardinal was actually working in their IT department, and so it was actually learning and being a support desk analyst. And then I moved into team. Their title, I think, team lead, then supervisor of that department, then a manager, and transferred down to Raleigh, Durham. Working on site at Duke University, managing their inventory storeroom, and then I relocated back up to Columbus as a business analyst. And then I took a new job into pharmaceutical sales. Um, to backtrack a little bit, though, again, my work ethic, I've always, majority of my, when I was in college, I had college and work, so two jobs. And whenever I went to work at Cardinal, I had time on the weekends. So I worked retail for a hot minute, and then I actually went to work for Dominion Homes. I was a sales assistant for them, working evenings and weekends. And so that was my first introduction truly to real estate. Outside of my dad was always, he owns 15, I think, rental properties. So I was always exposed to real estate, but not to that degree. So working at Cardinal, I actually worked part time for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years as an assistant to one of the sales reps there as a part time job, and then I went out into pharmaceutical sales. Was killing it, and then I was over in West Virginia and had a bad car accident. I was on a highway, and somebody came across the highway, hit my car, totaled it, and I was off work for almost 3 weeks because I got shingles actually while I was off work from stress from the accident, I guess, or the impact. And while I was off work, just riding in a car, was getting bad headaches, and decided to explore other opportunities and threw my resume out to a couple builders. And I had an offer from Dominion Homes and an offer from Bob Webb at the same time, and took an opportunity with Bob Webb. And that was the beginning of my real estate career.
So with diving in with Dominion on the part time side of it, was that just because it was an opportunity that worked with the schedule that you already had in place, or was it really that itch of family has some experience with the investment side, I like the architecture side?
To be honest, at that point, it was just I was just looking in the paper, saw an ad, and thought it sounded kind of cool, and I actually really enjoyed it. I mean, it was I was pretty impactful to the salesperson that was there. I mean, I helped her sell houses, and they actually offered me a full time job while I was there. Which, looking back, I should have done that. That was killer money back then. I mean, still is for some of the new reps, but at that point, I kind of started getting a little bit of impact from my friends and family that, oh, you don't want to work evenings and weekends the rest of your life, yada
Huh.
yada. And so I stayed the path with Cardinal at that time, and I don't even want to say how little the pay was, uh, and how it could have been so much different working evenings and weekends. But I took a promotion at Cardinal and stayed there, and then with that promotion, I knew I was going to be traveling it, so I had to leave Dominion at that time because then I started traveling quite a bit more.
Yeah. It's always interesting, how we get to that point of real estate becoming our thing, right? And that was really just that small little taste based off of your work ethic of wanting to do more on the weekends and evenings, outside of your other job. And that so eventually that led to you deciding to go and work Bob Webb. What was that like for you as a new build rep?
Uh, I started with Web, and my first month, I sold more than the previous gentleman that was in the model his entire year. To be honest, I mean, it was just real estate has always been, and from day one, common sense for me. It's and maybe that's my retail background, but I just refer to it as a needs analysis. It's you taught you had mentioned previously just in regards to I don't know if you actually stayed asking questions, um, but it's asking the appropriate questions and finding out what's important to somebody. And once you find out what's important for somebody, then it's much easier than to um, help guide them to the next level or the next state. And that's that that I guess I was with Webb for probably 2 or 3 years, and I the entire time I was there, I mean, I was there. Not that they had that many reps at that time, but I was always the top rep, and then I helped always train the new agents that joined as well, or the new at that time they weren't agents, but the new
Right.
sales reps.
Well, just with your background, right?
I should
You know,
say, I'm sorry. While I was at Cardinal, actually, I got my license. So I shouldn't say the word "got," but I um, I went to school at Hondros and um, obtained my real estate license about a year before leaving Cardinal. And so I had it when I was in pharmaceutical sales. I just wasn't utilizing it at that point in time. And then I went to Webb. And when I went to Webb, at that point in time, they didn't actually allow you to have your license active. So I put it in escrow at that time.
what made you get your license while still at Cardinal?
Uh, Part of it wasn't so much actually wanting to sell, but actually wanting to invest and and gain that education. So I purchased my first investment property in 2020. I'm sorry, in 2000. So while I was at Cardinal, so that was my first investment property. Well, actually, I guess about two while I was at
Was it
Cardinal.
was it just that you were trying to save commissions, or was it you just wanted to kind of learn more of the real estate side of the
Just
industry?
learn more. Uh, I'm big in regards to always educating yourself and staying.
Mhm.
And so it wasn't so much saving commission dollars, but actually just uh, educating myself to making sure that I knew everything I needed to know to and more. So, I mean, we can talk about that here in a little bit as well. But just like you and I just mentioned in regards to where we met in Phoenix, I'm always looking at masterminds, education outside of Columbus, and anything to do to further my education in real estate or just in general.
That's a whole nother topic that we can
Yeah.
that we can dive into that I think a lot of agents, and we'll probably will touch base on it because I know it's big for you and it's big for me as well. You came out of the gates firing with Bob Webb, and I can only think that being in the retail space with the work ethic, with again, it's if anyone hasn't worked in that, it's the sales skills of being the conversation skills of being able to open up and engage with people. I think that's the hard part of retail is how do you really get someone to put their guard down and say, stop leaving me alone, to have an actual conversation, right? And then pharmaceutical sales, right? That is a whole nother ball game in itself, because now you're doing, kind of B2B, so to speak, and you got
Right.
to go through gatekeepers, right, to even get to the people that make the decisions, and working through that. So it doesn't surprise me that when you got in a position to really get in front of people that absolutely need to buy, right, or build, or whatever the case may be, that you came and crushed it. So what made you eventually decide to say, hey, new construction is no longer for me, and I want to go and get my actual real estate? Well, you had your real estate license before that, but what made you want to switch to the real estate agent side?
That would be a 2-hour conversation on its own. But uh, I ran into at that time, a builder rep who had started her own company, independent company at a parade of homes. And at that parade of homes, had a conversation, and one thing led to another, and went to a small boutique, independent real estate company. And part of it was I felt like I had mastered. Um, I mean, and you can always learn more, but the new construction side, and I wanted to learn the numbers and learn everything from um, the residential sales side of things. So same thing. I I left that business or left web, and honestly, it was like one of the most difficult job things I ever did. I whenever I left, I sat down with Becky Webb, and I think both of us actually broke down into tears with me leaving. It was like, okay, who leaves a job and actually cries? I mean, but because it was such a great thought the world of them and the company, but I was actually just looking for that next step in regards to progression in life. And the next job I took, working for that independent company, I learned a lot in regards to the financing side. I learned a lot about the just selling aspect, and not just where a lot of real estate agents just want to open a door, let somebody look around. I learned everything from payments, and it's not just about a house. People are looking for ultimately they have certain needs, but they're also looking at the financial aspect, and
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest things. So if you can figure out that financial aspect for somebody, that's the biggest obstacle to overcome.
Where do you think you got the desire to always be learning?
I have no idea. Um, good question. I don't know.
And it's not that.
And I kind of say I I refer back to my corporate working in the corporate world. Oftentimes, I may not be the smartest egg out there, but I have a high degree of common sense, and I could sit in a meeting and be like exhausted listening to some people who love to actually hear themselves talk, and at the very end of the meeting, after listening to everything, looking at it and analyzing everything in my head during that meeting, within the last 2 minutes of that meeting, regurgitate a solution or a plan at the very end within a couple minutes. And then I walk out there, I'm like, well, that meeting could have lasted 5 minutes. I mean, so um, I guess to answer your question, I'm always forward thinking whenever I walk into a client's house. One of the first things I tell them is, if I go quiet, I may go squirrel on you, and because I start to look at the ceiling and start to think of different avenues, what we can do to market their house, what we can do differently to whether it's staging their home, whether it's if we should paint it, we need to change the flooring, or what we can do. So I'm always thinking. I'm always in some respect, I guess when I say thinking, forward thinking, and
Yeah.
whether it's um, listening to an audible, whether it's reading a book, whether it's but I'm always on the move doing something.
Yeah. I think, for me, I think it was the environment that I went to, automatically, already had coaching. I think it comes from, my sports background of growing up, right? And you're always, if anyone who played sports or, even like musical instruments or anything, right? It's the pursuit of getting better, every single day or when you're at practice and all of those things. So I was just curious for you what that, maybe could have been, because I think obviously you have your small portion of agents. I think everyone wants to learn, right? Especially when they get into real estate. But there's a whole nother level of saying, I don't know it all yet type of learning, right? And I'm open to, you mentioned going to conferences and masterminds and things outside of the state, right? And always be looking for other ways of improvement, whether that's a system that you need to add or tweaking your presentation based off what's going on in the marketplace and so forth. So I was just curious about that. Kevin, for you, when you made that switch from Bob Webb, had success there, and was like, hey, I'm going to jump into the real estate agent side of things. Did you have supporters? Did you have doubters? What side of the fence really fueled you to take it and run?
Not really. I mean, I think for the most part, I mean, I've um, again, maybe that's the fortunate thing of being single. Kind of made my own life choices, and family have supported me in regards to things. I mean, maybe they've kind of a little bit of a different path in regards to myself, but it's but usually when I put my mind towards something, I just run after it and go.
Did you have instant success like you did on the Bob website? Did you, when you switched over, did you hit the ground running?
I did. It was a little different. Again, but it was learning, and I use this example with agents that join my team all the time. It's I look at I never say I would never say no to any client, anybody that would call. If they were looking to buy a home, I'd always tell them that it may not be today that you're approved, but it can be tomorrow, depending on what you do yourself. And it's no different than what I've done myself as well. And I mean, um, one of the stories I tell often, and this was actually probably my third client. She was coming from about a $30,000 house. She did home health care at the time. She had a home health care client. I would pick her up. Her home health care client would oftentimes be with us. He once told me that he wanted to hang me on the garage door opener and choke me. But that client though, I sold her $150,000 house. She later bought a $300,000 house. She later turned her company into a much larger company, then bought a $300,000 piece of land, then built a $1.5 million home on it that I represented her. And then since then, she's bought a office building from me, and 2 or 3 additional properties from me, and has referred countless clients to me. So
That's awesome.
I always tell people, I'm like, it doesn't matter what price point, treat everybody the same way, and you're going to have instant success.
Yeah, you just never know, what's going to happen with that person in the future or who they know, right? And um, I was just talking to my coach about this on a call I do with him on Tuesdays about, it's hard for some agents because we all have now bills, right? But at the end of the day, we're building a career, so we actually have to try to remove the now situation and really think long term, and that's hard for a lot of agents to do in the beginning of their career, and even established agents, it's
Yeah,
harder for them to do because the bills don't stop, right? But sometimes real estate is this. But really it's the lifetime value. You always have to think, lifetime value, and how can I help this person not just on one transaction but over the course of their lifetime. And most likely, they're probably going to be buying 2, 3, 4 homes over the course of that lifetime, especially in today's world, plus all of the additional potential referrals that you're going to get from that person. And sometimes, obviously, we're all human, right? So in the moment, it's like, you know, um, you know, it's a small deal or whatever the case may be. But if you do your job the right way and you think long term, that's going to pay you back 3x, 4x, 5x. And it's happened to me countless times over the years.
absolutely.
So,
But and I also I tell I tell everybody, I tell agents that join my team and so forth as well, that you only have one reputation, and just do your very best to always do the right thing, treat everybody the right way, and if you do those simple things, then that's also going to, I don't say it's going to ensure you success, but it's going to ensure that you'll be able to sleep at night.
mhm.
Uh, real estate has its stress, so so you may not always sleep at night, but at least you're going to be able to go to bed with your head on the pillow and feel like you've done the right things. And as long as you do those things, and you create a good reputation for yourself with clients and other agents are going to want to work with you as well. And that's one thing I believe I've prided myself in over the years too, is to create not just good relationships with clients, but good relationships with other agents as well.
Kevin, what year did you make that switch to go into being a realtor? And then how did you focus building your business in the early years?
Well, that's I have to backtrack that a little bit. I went went to work for or I went to work at that time. The company was called Your Home Source in 2005, and um, and then I took over ownership of the company in 2007, right when the market crashed.
Mm,
So yeah, or 2 months before the market crashed. So to say that that was a stressful time is an understatement. So I've kind of lived through it all in regards to real estate up and down, the ups and downs, and so it was um, that was a challenging time to say the least. And at that point in time, actually, I ended up leaving um, the residential world for a bit and went back into new construction because I mean the market had tanked,
mhm.
and I owned rental properties at the time. Other people were short selling, getting out of their rental properties and everything else, but I never missed one payment, credit cards, house payments, anything. So fortunately, I'm glad. I mean, I kept hold of all my rental properties, still have most of those, and have add to them since. But the I went back to work in new construction in 2009. Worked for Fisher Homes for a couple of years and worked for Copper Tree for a year as well. And then I went back, uh, started rebuilding my team back in 2011, I guess, or 2012.
Okay. So yeah, that's right around the time that we met then.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think actually that was right then. Yeah, absolutely.
Um, how did you go about building, the business from 2012 moving forward? I know now, right, you do leads and all of that, but did you instantly come out and know that was the way that you wanted to go? And did you know that you wanted to have a team?
I did a lot of research. I knew I was going to have a team because having a independent brokerage previously or taking over the independent brokerage, I knew that that was the way of the future, having a team. But everybody kept asking me to why I wouldn't open my brokerage again. I'm like, Absolutely not, never." Uh, I'm so shocked when I see other agents do it all the time because I'm like, it's so little money to pay to brokerages considering for what you actually get.
Well,
I
honestly,
mean,
I think it's the same thing about agents wanting to go and be a team, right? And be a team lead. It's for some people.
yeah,
It's not for a lot of people.
yeah.
And I see it the same as agents wanting to go and start their own brokerage. I don't think they actually realize all that really goes into it.
Yeah. E&O insurance. I mean, there, especially as an independent brokerage. I mean, my whole thing on it is, yeah, what am I going to, if I'm going on a listing presentation? I mean, again, not to fault any agent out there who wants to be an independent brokerage, but my, my thought on it was, I don't want to go into a listing presentation and have to talk 15 minutes in regards to why, who my brokerage is and why I'm independent when the the honesty of it is I'm making more money if I'm independent. I'm not doing any more benefits for my client. So that was the main reason why whenever I decided I wanted to be with a larger brokerage as opposed to doing anything on my own. I mean, I do intend to actually get my broker's test at some point, but I have no intention of actually ever being an independent brokerage. At least for me, for me, it's not something that I want.
Yeah. Lead me up to current day as far as team growth and just kind of how you've navigated the real estate industry. Obviously you saw the highs and the lows of oh 05, oh 06, oh 07, oh 08, oh 09. How have you thought about building your business up to current day and the thought processes behind that?
Well, I guess kind of go back to your last question. I didn't, I guess, fully answer that, and with to play on this, the whenever I first got into real estate and I was killing it, it was different, meaning that the marketing that I was doing then, in that short window of 2005 to 2012 ish, the way people were looking and searching for homes completely changed in a 5-year period of time. In 2005 to 2008, 2009, whenever I went to work for Fisher, I ran classified ads. I did bag drops. I did local newspaper ads. I did um, house magazine ads. I've been getting a call from somebody recently, and I'm like, why would I ever do that again? They keep wanting me to advertise a house, and I'm like, really? Does people do that, or do people do that? But whenever I decided I want to get back into it, prior to diving back in, that's why whenever I met you out there in Phoenix, I I knew there was a different way, and I wanted to be on the forefront of doing things differently. So that was, I mean, I was one of the actually, I was one of the only agents here in Central Ohio that, and gosh, I just lost the name of it. It's no longer around, and I can't remember the name, but
What's the Tiger Leads?
thank you. Yep, I was with Tiger Leads, and at that time there were only a handful. I mean,
Yeah.
and it was like a secret. Nobody told anybody like what it was, where you're getting your leads, how you're. Uh, I mean, it was like top secret information,
Yeah.
and but it worked, and I mean, and then from there I went to, and actually that was when I was introduced to Commissions Inc. Whenever I met you,
Mhm. Mhm.
uh, they I think they launched at that event that we were at, the Kinder Reese event out in Phoenix.
Yeah.
And I still have Commissions Inc. So Commissions Inc. is I have a free CRM with Keller Williams, but I use Commissions Inc. Been with them since 2012,
Yeah.
since they started. It's been a good system, and gosh, we have 40,000 plus leads in our back office.
It's one of those things where like agents ask me all the time, "What's the best CRM?" We went with Boomtown,
Yep.
um, and been with them since 2012. I think we started with them at the end of 2011, and leads started trickling in like December of 2011, January 2012, and um, what I tell agents all the time is the two best systems that I've ever had. I dabbled in Commissions Inc. For a year while running Boomtown at the same time, and those are the top two. And they're the reason why they're the most expensive. It's like Zillow leads. There's a reason why it's the most expensive because they are the best, across the board. And they're Commissions Inc. and Boomtown, up until Boomtown just got bought, were two of the longest standing internet lead CRMs in the marketplace.
I
And
hadn't
I
heard
would
they
say,
were just recently bought. I didn't know that.
yeah, Inside Real Estate bought them. So, we'll see what happens there. But it's my experience with that, and probably yours with leads and CRMs, obviously, is you get what you pay for. And just like you, we have an option of a different CRM at my brokerage, and we still roll with Boomtown. Why? Because we know it's the best or one of the best. So. So Kevin, I want to kind of move. 2012, you're building the team, building the business, right? You're doing it. I want to kind of move, kind of future pacing, of kind of where you think you want to go, where you think the business is going to go. What are some of what are some of the goals and things that you're trying to accomplish here over the next 12 months?
Well, if I backtrack briefly, in 2019, again, I'm always kind of forward thinking. In 2019, I looked at real estate and I knew I could see the writing on the wall on a few things. One, some agent commissions that were happening out there, and a few other things. So I decided I wanted to further my education. So I went back and got my MBA in 2019
Hmm.
as an old fart. But it was gosh, I enjoyed my bachelor's degree, just my undergrad, just the people I met and the experiences. But the, getting my master's degree was just um, a complete different level in regards to. Well, one, it was an international MBA through Ashland University, and we traveled to Paris and Italy and Greece, or Athens. I mean, so it was a fantastic experience. I learned so much that I didn't know, and And even though it wasn't a real estate focused, wherever we traveled, I went to New York City with it as well. Real estate was always involved because numbers and finances and everything else too. So I'm always, again, forward thinking, um, and I believe in giving back as far as education wise and everything too. So like right now, I'm actually running for the board of directors with Columbus Realtors. So that election is next week. So hopefully I get that. So please vote for me, and anybody watching. Um, but my goal now is to really keep the team moving along. We have 10 agents now, and I would like to increase that. And I am in the process of getting my license in Florida as well. But I'm wanting to start moving into more of a role of giving back to the organization that's actually helped me so much as well. And but still growing the team and as well.
What's with the Columbus director, obviously giving back. What's kind of a focus or a priority for you?
There's a lot of things happening with NAR right now,
Mhm.
um, and then just in general um, with our career path, or with um, being an agent and technology, different things, and to be on the forefront. And so I think if anything, it's perfect timing for me to get involved, because with me being a forward thinker like I am, I think it's I thi- and loving challenges. So that's one of I've been wanting to do it for a while, but it actually kind of really sparked my interest even that much more of
Yeah.
being more involved, and because there's so much going on at this time with our industry.
Yeah. What's your stance on it? What's your thoughts? You don't have to do a deep dive, but everyone's up in the air of, oh, it's going to be fine. Oh, this is a big deal. I'm just curious. You've been in the business in the industry a long time. What are your initial thoughts on it?
If anything, I've learned over the years to step back and to watch and listen, as opposed to making um, um, hasty moves or hasty comments or anything else regarding things. But I guess in regards to what you've initially stated, if anything, I think I don't believe it's going to make a huge impact, and at least initially, because ultimately the client is still looking for service.
Hmm.
So if commission changes out there, um, it ultimately depends on what the buyers are looking for in regards to service. Goes back to retail. It's a service game.
Yeah.
If somebody doesn't want service, if they just want to throw a house up for sale, then we've seen that happen already, where there's
Yeah.
some agents out there that do similar things in the past, or out there right now, and it's those homes sit because they're not being marketed the way they should be marketed. So as long as it's to answer your question to in another avenue as well, or another path, it's no different than, I'm sure you have agents that come to you that want to be part-time, and I'm sure you take some part-time agents, but it depends on and I have as well in the past, but part-time agents, it depends on what's going on in their life. I mean, if they have the time for it, there's
Hmm.
a lot of those part-time agents come in and go out quickly,
Yeah.
because it is a full-time job. It's a and in our job, and real estate should be treated as a profession, and not a lot of people. And there's clients that don't treat us as professionals, and there's also real estate professionals that don't treat it as a professional job.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing, is to make sure that people understand it is a profession, and it needs to be treated that way.
Yeah. I think you mentioned service. I think there are going to be changes. I always tell my agents, real estate's not going to stop, right? It doesn't matter what's going on in the world. The one beautiful thing of where we are and where we live is that the U.S. housing industry is a very large industry and has worldly impacts on things. Whether you don't want to, whether you want to look at it that way or not, but it's true, right? So I always tell agents like it's not going to stop; it's going to change. You might have to change your approach or do things a little bit differently. I do think there will be some changes around it. I just think there's too much going on right now in our industry for there not to be. But like you said, it still comes down to service, right? And some people are going to value the service that you bring to the table, and some people are not going to value the service that you bring to the table. And it's your job as the real estate professional to be able to put yourself in a position when you get in front of people to be able to articulate how you're going to help them accomplish their goal, their real estate goal, whether it's buying, selling, or investing. So, but I do think there will be some changes, and I think I believe some agents will be getting out of the business because of those changes. And I think the ones that will adapt and change their ways will be just fine, like always, right?
Absolutely.
Real estate did not disappear in '08 and '09, right? It's still deals were happening, people were moving. It just looked differently. Kevin, what's a 5-year plan for you? Any 5-year goals?
Uh, I plan to buy more investment properties. I plan to also, again, expand the team. Plan to have another team in the Florida market. That'll probably be within the next probably 6 to 12 months. So that'll be more in the short term, and then just continue leveraging myself because the one thing that has always been difficult for me, and goes all the way back to any job I've ever had, and that is actually delegation. Because I know if I have hold of it, it's going to get done. It's going to get done the way I want it to get done, and that's so my goals over the next 5 years is entrusting more on others to help me get to those goals or to help grow the team, as opposed to all of it being on my shoulders all the time.
Yeah.
Hence running for director. I'm going to have to start leveraging more people on my team to help out and giving to others. But I've I've always I've always wanted to look at all the notes or look at the descriptions, anything going into the MLS, because I know if it's written the way that I write things, my mind, then it's I'm not all about just fluff. I'm about the reasons, the needs of why somebody wants to buy a house and guiding that. So it's I guess over the next 5 years, it's more letting go of a few things so that I can actually leverage other things.
Yeah, I always think about, if I train this person, I have to trust that person, right? And if they are 80% of me, then that's good enough. But I always, with us growing our team, it was I'm going to train you and trust you until I can't trust you anymore. But at the end of the day, that means it still falls on my shoulders that maybe my training was off or I didn't give them enough or whatever the case may be. But creating that leverage, that opportunity, with what you have going on and what you want to be doing, especially going into a different state, right, and expansion and all of those things, you're gonna have to you'll have to fight through that. You'll have to fight through that. Kevin, what's a legacy goal for you? What's a goal you want to hit when you're no longer here?
I never really thought about that. Um, I it really, I guess if I can say anything about a legacy goal, it's always just having the respect of others. If that makes sense. It's just looking. My goal is always just to know that I've done the right thing and I've had the respect by others by doing it. It's not necessarily making so much money or having so many real estate property or so many rentals or I've done so many flips, but it's just always knowing that I've done the right things. And I've gained respect by others.
Love it. Last question for you. If you could give our audience one piece of advice that that you always give, agents that ask you, or one that maybe you received early on in your career, as you were building your business, what would that be?
I say it all the time. Real estate is not a part-time job. Uh, don't don't look at coming into real estate that it's a job that you can wear your pajamas all day long. It's a job that or your workout gear when you get up in the morning. Put on your work clothes. Treat it as, if you don't have any appointments, treat it as a full-time job that you're going into the office. Because if you treat something that it is, uh, if you treat it as a that you've left your full-time job and you've now, like, I'm going into real estate, and that you've just like, oh, let me take the dog for a walk, I can now go to yoga at 2 in the afternoon, or I can now go to the gym at 11 o'clock and stay there till 2 o'clock, what have you. Are you really treating it as a full-time job? If it's a
Yeah.
full-time job, and if it is your career, then still time block everything as if you would have your other job, because that's what's going to lead you to success. Too many people leave their full-time jobs and just to go into real estate, um, and then they make the comments, or you hear, well, I'm not selling anything. Well, what are you doing to get the business? So
Yeah.
if you're not working it, then you're not going to have the business.
Yeah. I love it, Kevin. Thanks so much for your time today. Those that are watching, Kevin's phone number is down below. If you are thinking about buying, selling, investing in real estate here in Central Ohio, please reach out to him. If you guys are a real estate agent, you just connected with him and his story and his thoughts. You want to pick his brain, please reach out to him. Kevin, for those that are listening in, what is the best way for someone to connect?
I always have my phone on me. It's in my hand. It may be broke right now, but it's always in my hand. So call or text 614
Uh,
571 1902. And if you're a real estate agent, please vote for me next week.
Kevin, thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate you jumping on here. I loved catching up with you. Loved hearing your story. I never really got to hear the full story of your journey into the business and how far you've come so far. And I know with what you're building and what you're doing that you're going to continue to grow. And I'm excited to watch that journey. As you guys go.
Sounds good. Thanks. I appreciate it. And I look forward to hanging out with you and one of the next conferences.
Yes, for sure. All right, I'll talk to you later.
All right. Take care. Have a good one.
Yeah.